Welcome to the ASTROLABE. It is a late labe, the latest labe. Apparently, we only do late labes around here. I'd like to do them earlier, but this afternoon has been a very, very full day. I have been sitting here trying to get a bunch of stuff done. Phone is just blowing up constantly. Had a couple very interesting conversations. Very fun things are coming, folks. There's just so many things happening. So much news. I had just stuff flying in. Even just now, just before I went live, I dropped a couple more in, and I've got to remind myself to make sure that I actually bring them up when the time is right. But what do you guys think of all these new picks? Maybe you don't know what to think yet. These new Trump nominations. I saw someone say yesterday that this is crazy. They're like, this feels like I'm watching the NFL draft or something. Just like everyone's following this super closely. Each time a new nomination is announced, all the news, everyone goes crazy talking about it. Got young people who are following the political happenings more than ever. We truly live in a new age. I think we're experiencing to some degree what politics is going to be for the foreseeable future. And ultimately, I think it's a pretty good thing. I think we're going to experience lots of good things because of it. Yeah, Manoan says, I'm fine with the pick. Some good, some bad. Patronage must happen. Yes. What's up, Tobias? Good to see you in the chat. Let's just get rocking and rolling with this because I've got another 4 windows worth of tabs. Got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. And some of these are going to go kind of quick. But a lot of news keeps happening. So the more news that happens, the more I'll bring to you guys. Do me a favor and hit the like button. If you're wandering on in here, if you're on Twitter, then do me a favor and go interact with the tweet on my profile that shows the stream that's happening right now. Go retweet it, like it, reply to it, give it some kind of interaction, boost it out there. The numbers are growing, folks. They grew real fast at first, and then they kind of settled off for a little bit. Now they're growing again. It's great to see. Really appreciate all the interaction from you guys. It's good to... I love every single one of you that's sending me DMs, that's sending me content. Even if I don't reply or don't interact with it, sometimes you'll see it on here. I probably got it from you and just haven't had time to reply. But if I don't reply, then don't despair. I'm not mad at you. I'm not ignoring you. There's lots and lots of messages out there. So I appreciate it. Keep sending them to me. You guys send me really good stuff. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to keep track of half the stuff that's going on out there. Straight Buster says, feels more like Fantasy League in some ways. Yeah, very much so, which is interesting. This is my life for a very long time, so I've kind of naturally fallen right into it. Got a couple super chats to hit here real quick. Appreciate your guys' generosity. If you want to support the show and keep me doing this on a regular basis, then super chats help muchly. $2 US, cold hard cash from, I do not know how to pronounce that. I'm going to call you Blagopful. Blakopful. How about that? Blakopful. See that libs are all migrating to blue sky? Yes, it's excellent. Be gone with you libs. Abandon the platform where everything is happening. Sequester your voices. Hide off in the corner and shave your head or do whatever stupid shit you guys are doing. I love to see it. And 5 more Eagle Bucks from Microsoft Sam Harris. Opinion on the idea of Elon being the privatized voice of the regime. Yeah, I'd say that's fairly accurate. I think the private versus public distinction is kind of fake and gay. I understand it, and it's sort of useful as a construct for discussing things sometimes. But at the end of the day, there are people, and there are people who have power, and there are institutions that the people with power use to exercise that power. And whether it's public or private, I mean, you can have private institutions that are super corrupt and evil, and they use the so-called private aspect of it to facilitate that corruption and evil. And then you have so-called public regimes that or institutions that can be great forces for good as well if they're in the right hands and are structured with the proper incentives. So at the end of the day, I care about who is in power, who is influencing things, what are their incentives, and what do in what way can they benefit us, or do we need to keep an eye out and try to protect ourselves or insulate ourselves from their happenings? Okay. Yeah, Amy says if anyone ever needs to let Matt know something, he has a secretary. Yes, you can reach out to my wife. My wife, the people who really urgently need to get a hold of me always wind up going through her because she'll come get on my case. So reach out to her. Mic crackle. Uh-oh. Hopefully the mic doesn't start having issues. Last thing I need. Audio is roboting. Excellent. Fantastic. No idea what to do about it. Hopefully it just goes away. I'm going to share a video and play that. Let me know if the audio is okay on the video. And if it is better, maybe the mic will resolve itself while we're watching the video. So this is a shout out here to Mr. Jason Miranchuk. He and I were on the phone for a few hours last night discussing many things. And the work that he and the excellent producer Lex DeBlanca are doing is just phenomenal. Just incredible. He sent this to me, still kind of messed up. All right. Well, it's still buzzing on the video as well. Well, that's really not good. Now it's better. Okay, good. Better now. All right. Well, hopefully it stays that way. I literally have no idea what to do with it apart from just stopping the stream and starting it over again. So Jason sent this to me yesterday, and I was just in awe. And this is something that he produces the raw goods. He produces the raw materials, and then Lex goes ham, and it's incredible. He did this in a very impossibly short period of time, and it's phenomenal.
Enemies frozen, trapped like flies in the ember. Ain't no escape, wrapped tight on the handler. Eternity awaits, deep within the geodays. Shattered dreams, locked tight, closed low. Crystal prisons, souls forever caught. Eons pass, they rot and forgot. Encased in a gem, an endless night. Lost in a void, gone from the light. In the crystal you go. Oh, motherfucker, in the crystal you go. In the crystal you go. Oh, motherfucker, in the crystal you go.
Oh, incredible. Shout out to Lex DeBlanca and Jason Miranchuk. The good work that they're doing. Go over to Miranchuk Now on Twitter and on YouTube, and I think on Substack. All the places. Go to Miranchuk Now and subscribe, follow, give him money. He's doing such good work over there. And Taylor says, I need this as an iTunes single, please. Well, maybe you should just hold on a little bit. I've heard a rumor that something along those lines may be occurring. I cannot confirm or deny, but I'll just say there's good stuff coming. Another super chat. See you in the morning. $5. He says, we have this new world where every few hours you check X and the future shoots in a fun new direction. They're going to stop eating the dogs. That's right. Thank you for the super chat, man. That's a great point. It's like you get to log on to the coolest app on the planet and periodically get awesome news that radically changes the future, and you get to play a role in it. It is a good time. We live on the best timeline. Yeah, someone should send that clip to the cyberbully. I'm thinking that would be that'd be a good thing for the cyberbully to incorporate into his transmission. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, then you need to get your Patriot drop. The link is in the description, or you can just go straight to ewbsx.com if you'd like to. But I'd recommend going to the link in the description. It's also my pinned tweet on Twitter. Go watch the video. The moment that we received this secret transmission, we happened to catch it on video, and we are mere portals. We are just conveying these secret white pills to you guys. So go watch the video in my pinned tweet on Twitter, and then follow the instructions from there. $5 from Colin. Super mic crackle labia. Is the mic crackling still happening? If it gets bad enough, you guys tell me. If it's just bad enough, then I'll go through the trouble of I'll end the stream. I'll go create a new YouTube stream. I'll drop the link in the chat. And then I'll restart the stream over there. Let me know. Gone now. Okay. Well, we're gonna keep it going until you guys tell me otherwise. More of the same type of content. I can't get enough of this stuff. Elon and the X-Men.
Hey, Wills, what is this place?
It's a school for remarkable misfits, not unlike yourself, Donny J. Here, we turn the autistic into leaders, patriots, and heroes. Let me give you a tour.
You had me at autistic, lead the way, professor?
We gather the best and brightest from around the world to combat the forces of darkness.
Let me get a roll call already, you delightful cripple.
Take Alex, for example. His powers identifying globalists.
That's a globalist.
Well done, Alex.
Impressive. Show me more, you low-altitude genius.
This is Josie. She's a constitutional scholar who isn't afraid to call people retards. Very promising.
I don't find that uninspiring.
Totally. Then there's Joshua. He's a future senator who currently teaches counter-propaganda. His colleague Poso is impressive as well.
1-800-leaders.com? My goodness.
I'm just getting warmed up, Donny J.
Hey, who's that big fella over there?
Yeah!
That's Baron. He's only beginning to explore the depths of his power, but he's essential in the fight to come.
Against whom exactly?
Mainly NPCs and perverts.
Oh man, it's so good. I only know who like half of those people are. They're from a corner of Twitter that I don't frequent all that often, but we have a lot of overlap. It's so cool. I could watch an entire movie of this, and it's also like if you want to get people's attention to your little corner of Twitter and your people, this is a great way to do it. It's at 346,000. This will probably hit at least 500,000. That's 500,000 people who are going to learn about them. So there's a marketing thing to this. This whole thing is just really, really cool. We live on the coolest timeline. Apparently right now, supposedly the last ever Alex Jones broadcast is happening. I haven't been able to really tune into any of it, but apparently Infowars, which is to be sold via court-mandated auction tomorrow, has received a seven-figure bid by an ally of Alex Jones. On Wednesday morning, Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' notorious Infowars media empire will go up for auction in a court-mandated sale, and at least one bid is in the seven-figure range, a person familiar with the matter told CNN. That bid is from an individual described as an ally of Jones, who wants the host to continue broadcasting on the Infowars platform he founded under new ownership, the person said. It was not immediately clear who had placed the bid. Elon has a chance to do the funniest thing ever right now. I think it's probably like 50-50 that it's actually Elon. We may not actually know. I don't know if they're like legally required to publish who the person was, and it could be if the person wanted to, they could probably hide their identity. But this is great. Just buy it, make him the CEO, and keep it running. It's brilliant. It is so brilliant. The libs cannot stop owning themselves. They've forced this whole thing, and at the end of it, he's going to come out better than ever. And they've just, like, they can't shoot that shot again. They already shot that shot. They maxed it out to the absolute possible extent that they could. And they wound up in not just like the same place, but a better place. $5 in leaf bucks from Cordy ZZ7. A loyalist. He says, neocon picks could be the scapegoat we need for a 2-term Vance presidency. Hork dork ree. We're gonna get to the picks here in just a little bit, and some of the commentary on them. Thank you for the super chat. And what I'd heard, now this is just something I kind of saw in passing as I was trying to get the show ready. I heard that bid, or that a bid, had already been accepted. Now the what is it, the executor or whatever of the process is not obligated to pick the highest bid necessarily, and they could still choose to give it to someone else. But it'll be interesting to see. And maybe while I'm doing the show, the information's already broken. You guys can let me know. But it'd be very funny if it was Elon. All right, I'm going to make you guys listen to a couple women.
There has been a MAGA victory lap tour on Twitter, and we can just go through the tweets right now. Matt Walsh: now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that, yeah, actually Project 2025 is the agenda. LOL. Which we knew. We reported on that. Nick Fuentes says, your body, my choice, forever.
Oh my gosh, that makes me sick.
John Miller says, women threatening sex strikes like LMAO, as if you have a say. Shannon tweets, so I'm supposed to go to work and do my job. Oh,
I love this. The community note on this: having sex with a woman without her consent is rape. His "like you have a choice" is endorsing rape. Oh, thank you. Thank you, community notes. Appreciate that added context.
As if you have a say. Shannon tweets, so I'm supposed to go to work and do my job, as if half the country didn't just vote to give me less rights than men. Andrew Tate retweets with comment, and you also have to make me a sandwich. Then we have Nate. There has been a MAGA victory lap tour on Twitter, and we can just go.
Who listens to these people? What is their audience? I mean, this is their audience right here. Her talking to her and her talking to her. That's the extent of it's just literally them talking to profiles of themselves. $2 super chat from P. Quinones. He says, Kash Patel, FBI director. Is that confirmed? I had something in here about that. It was being very strongly rumored. If so, okay. Commentary on those things here in just a little bit, but I've got a couple other miscellaneous things to get through first. Oh yeah, by the way, go back and Icy Yoga, very good reply guy. He's gotten himself onto my roster of great reply guys. He's been giving me some good stuff for the show lately. So go follow at Icy Yoga. Now, I don't know why it's telling me that I'm not following Emergent Perspective, because I definitely did not unfollow him. Elon, what's going on? Okay, Pete says, from my best source. Okay, I'll take that. Kash Patel, confirmed. FBI director. Let's fucking go. Okay, so this chick is the one who the news broke a few days ago that she had given instructions to FEMA. She's a FEMA employee, and she'd given instructions to her subordinates to avoid any homes that had Trump paraphernalia on them. Now, she is getting ready to drag the entire agency down with her,
stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports, stating that.
So Emergent Perspective says recently fired FEMA employee who told workers to avoid helping homes if they had Trump signs says this is widespread, not isolated. Directors within the agency have issued official guidance to do this, and executives lied about it to CYA and blame subordinates. I hope this story stays alive, right? It's going to be hard to get in all of this stuff between now and January. Maybe a little easier than usual because I think Trump's going to be able to hit the ground running more quickly than the typical incoming administration. But it's going to be hard to run down a lot of these things for a period of time until they actually get confirmed and get in the jobs and start to work. But this is the sort of story that even you wouldn't need necessarily the incoming administration to take action on something like this if the PR thing, if it gets to be too much of a PR disaster. So I'm going to amplify it here. I'm going to be tracking this story. If it comes up again, I'll be talking about it here. This is something to really press on because, like, it would not be difficult at all for Kristi Noem to decide to make this a huge priority. FEMA deliberately avoiding, telling people to deliberately avoid providing aid to Trump voters. You don't have to be some real committed operative to recognize the political capital present in something like that. All right, so I'm playing this one mostly for my boy Wyman, but I know there's some others of you out here who have been enjoying Anna Kasparian's turn lately, and that by turn I mean her change in physical presentation as well as the things she talks about.
You all to know about it, okay? So we found out over the weekend, thanks to Nancy Pelosi's interview with the New York Times on their podcast, The Daily, that the plan was to get Biden to, step down from the re-election bid. And then they were all planning an open primary. But Biden, 30 minutes after he dropped out of the race, decided to endorse Kamala Harris as a middle finger to the Democratic Party. The other thing to know about Joe Biden is that their internal polling before he dropped out of the race indicated that if he stayed in the race, Donald Trump was going to win even more electoral college votes than he won against Kamala Harris. But they didn't care. Okay, he remained in the race until it was, in my opinion, already incredibly late. And so he set up Kamala Harris for failure. He set up the Democratic Party for failure. But I also want to be clear that the Democratic Party specializes in failure. They're incompetent, they're pathetic, and they lied to the American people and thought that they would get away with it. The cover-up on Biden's mental decline was very much real, and the fact that the party overall felt the need to lie to the American people and their own base goes to show you how little respect they have for their own voters.
All right, last two things.
It is a bad time to be a Democrat, man. Nobody likes you. No one likes you at all. Now, I don't think that Anna Kasparian is she's not our guy. And that's not what I'm trying to imply here. Although I do think that the people who are saying that she's becoming a neocon, I think you need to you're on like version 1.1, and you need to move up to version 1.2, or maybe actually you need to move up to version 2.0, because she's not becoming a neocon. A neocon is a very specific thing. It's not just like a disaffected liberal. A neocon is a very specific thing. What she is becoming is a neo-trad. She is moving straight into that whole milieu that Jason has predicted, the neo-trads. So they're not going to be neocons. They're not going to be shit libs. They may or may not be Zionist, but they're going to be a new thing, a neo-trad. She's one of the key examples. Now, this here, yeah, you're not going to believe how this story ends. This is a setup for another story.
Holy fuck. That is the most chilling thing I've ever heard in my life.
Isn't that fucked? They were in this part of Mexico, and it was like the first few days they were there. You know, Mexico's kind of sketchy, like especially at nighttime. Like, you shouldn't leave resorts, nothing. Like, stay in certain areas. So one night they're on the beach. There's like 8 of them or whatever. One of the girlfriends, she went into this like bar restaurant thing that was like by the beach, just like right across from it, to go to the bathroom, right? So she goes to the bathroom on her own. Like 5 minutes goes by, she's still not back, whatever. And they're like, whatever. It was like fine, normal. And then 10 minutes goes by, and they're like, yo, where is this? Where is she? Like, and then like after a few more minutes, they're like, yo, like it's been like 15 minutes. Like, wow, how's she not back yet? So a couple of the guys go back to check in on her. They search everywhere. She's gone. Nowhere in sight. They start panicking. Like, the boyfriend's like, yo, what the fuck? Like, where's this girl? Like, where is she? What the fuck? Calls her, nothing. Voicemail. Everyone texting her, everyone's calling her, nothing. And now they're kind of like freaking out, like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? So then they go inside, they call, like, to tell the employees, the bar owner, everything. Yo, have you seen this girl? They're like, no, sorry. So they're like helpless. They call the police. Police is like, yeah, like, we'll try, but whatever. And so the police is also corrupt over there. They don't even get involved with some like violence shit, right? With the gangs and stuff. Police is like, yeah, we'll see what we can do, but no guarantee. So now, you know, the night goes by, you know, there's nothing you can do. They just need to like wait.
I imagine they'd be freaking
out, bro. Imagine, yeah. The next day comes, they're still calling police, and they're still like, yeah, we haven't found her, sorry. And then like 2 days again goes by, they're all stuck there. They're still just trying to search everywhere they go. Finally, the police is like, we've looked everywhere, haven't found her. There's nothing we can do. They're like, sorry. At this point, they actually had to accept like she was gone. On the last day, they had to like drive over the border. They're going into the States. No one was getting back to them. No one was like helping really. So they kind of just accepted their fate, and like they were hoping she would just show up somewhere like back home. So they get to the border now. They're about to cross the border from Mexico going into the U.S. One of the guys looks over to the right to the next lane. There's like 8 lanes in the crossing the border. In the next car over, there's some Mexican guy, some random dude, with like a girl in the front seat. She had glasses on, like shades, and like, you know, wearing hooded, like full clothes, right? Yo, what the fuck is that? Is that like, you know, whatever the girlfriend's name was? And they all look over, they're like, yo, what the fuck? Yo, that is her. But she wasn't moving or anything. She was just like sitting like this. They quickly got out of the car, told the border security, yo, like that's my girlfriend or whatever. Yo, that's her. Like, we found her. And then they go to check this guy's car, and they take like her shades off, fully gone, like she's dead. And then they like pale.
Oh, was she
was
dead,
gone.
dead?
She was dead, like gone.
Oh.
They found out that like they cut her up, took all her organs out, filled it with drugs, sewed her back up.
Whoa.
They were gonna go take the drugs with her body as a mule over the border to sell more drugs. And that was like, imagine you're the boyfriend and you find that out on the spot right there.
So FB informant has it exactly correct. You knew what this was going to be a setup for. Our boy.
And again, and we know what happens to these children, Sean. And look, the illegal aliens coming across the border, people need to understand, 31% of women that make that journey get raped by criminal cartels. Children get raped. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 that have been raped multiple times. These cartels are animals, and that's why President Trump's going to take them off the face of the earth. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world. And President Trump is committed to calling them terrorist organization and using the full might of the United States Special Operations to take them out. Run it again.
Jason and I have been talking about this for a while now. the next point of American like military hostilities, the next big flashpoint is Mexico. The U.S.-Mexico border is going to be a big deal for the next 4 years, at least. And not in the least bit because it directly implicates China, because China has been promoting and facilitating this. And it's not a coincidence that the new Chinese president was appointed when she was, because the let's say the globalists are well aware of what's happening in response to them, and they know where the next fight is going to be, and they're positioning for it. Recall, everyone's been freaking out about Miriam Adelson, and they're forgetting who Trump's biggest donor was. Or maybe they didn't even know, because nobody talked about it. He just kind of lives in the shadows. But go look up Trump's biggest donor. Just go do it. I'm not going to talk about it more right now, but you can go look at, I just quote tweeted a tweet of mine from a month or so ago. Go to Real King Pilled and take a look at it. Do a little reading on that guy. Do me a favor and hit the like button, folks. So this fat piece of shit has something to say about this. You just heard that story. This is the guy who's financing that story. This is the guy who's implicated, who's all wrapped up in making sure those kinds of stories happen.
But we also want to make sure that there isn't a violation of people's rights with, raids, for example, that are done in coordination with local law enforcement on people who are, frankly, holding down jobs and have been in this country for many, many years. We think that's improper. And in Illinois, that's not.
Forgot to share the screen here.
But we also want to make sure that there isn't a violation of people's rights with, raids, for example, that are done in coordination with local law enforcement on people who are, frankly, holding down jobs and have been in this country for many, many years. We think that's improper. And in Illinois, that's not something that we would condone. There's been some talk about using other states' National Guard, red state National Guards to somehow come into a blue state and try and enforce these new Stephen Miller-inspired rules. And that's just not something we're going to accept. But I want...
This dude, forget the crystals. I'm going to straight up say this dude belongs in prison. I don't think I could say more than that, but if I could say more than that, I would say more than that. Bowtied Ranger says the left will simply not allow Trump to do what needs to be done in this country without a fight. The correct response to Pritzker here is to send the United States military to Illinois and begin rounding up illegals. To get this done, you need staunch loyalists in your administration, which is why the absolute most important thing Trump can do right now is appoint loyalists to his cabinet, and he is doing that. Now keep this in mind. The importance here is that the people he appoints are loyalists. Above all else, regardless of their particular inclinations or ideology or what have you, we want them to be loyalists to Trump. Because if they are loyalists to Trump, they know where their bread is buttered, and they're going to follow his lead. And we elected him for the government to follow his lead, because we believe in the vision that he cast of the future relative to where we are now and relative to the available alternatives. So we talked about Scott Jennings yesterday, and this is actually a clip that I had pulled up for that show, but I forgot to, I somehow skipped over and didn't play it. And I realized that when I was posting the Substack with the master thread, which you can go get, kingpill.substack.com. I started uploading the ASTROLABE episodes to Substack. That gets it posted out to the RSS feed, and then you can get all the links that I go through is there in the Substack post. So Pentagon officials are already discussing how they can countermand an order from President Donald Trump if they disagree with it. Scott Jennings absolutely ripped them to pieces.
Is that to you?
Well, I am a little concerned, honestly, if the federal bureaucracy, whether it's in the Pentagon or any other agency, is already having discussions about how to countermand the commander-in-chief. I mean, let's remember how this works. He got elected president. He's the commander-in-chief. He gives the orders. They follow them. And so I don't like the idea, candidly, Wolf, of non-elected government people at any level having meetings with each other about how to thwart the duly elected president of the United States. So I'm really hoping that when Donald Trump names his nominee for the Pentagon, and then they take office and you have your National Security Council in place, that we have a much better working relationship between the White House and the Pentagon than what I'm reading tonight, which is one part of the federal government already having some kinds of meetings about what it would look like to thwart the president. That's not a good way to start.
But let me follow up, Scott. Let me follow up with you, because Trump, as president, will be the commander-in-chief. But what these Pentagon officials are considering right now and discussing among themselves, what he gives the Pentagon, the U.S. military, illegal orders to do certain things. What do they do then?
My advice to them would be, instead of talking to each other, talk to the president and talk to his senior staff. Because look what's happened. They're having these meetings. Now it's out in the open. I mean, what is Donald Trump supposed to think now? You've already got the government, the bureaucracy, plotting against you or thinking the worst of you. So to me, the best thing that could happen here is for them to talk to each other, meaning the Pentagon people and the president and his team. That's what really ought to happen. So I hope these secret meetings that now somehow find their way into the press, that really needs to stop, and we need more communication between the incoming government and the people who are already in the building.
Yeah.
Shout out to Scott Jennings. I've got another clip of him coming up here, but I want to get the super chat. More Leaf Bucks. I appreciate all the Leaf Bucks, Mr. Slosher. 5 of them. He says the RCMP also published a classified report that China interfered with elections in Canada. Interesting. Yes, that's also going to be an issue forthcoming. It's not just going to be the Mexican border. The Canadian border is going to become an issue. Because what is going to define this next period in American politics is the battle between, you might say, American sovereigntist interests and globalist interests. Those globalist interests are not all united on exactly what they want, but the thing that unites them is the recognition that a fully sovereign America will rule the world by simple fact of its geographic location and its resources and its national identity and its political structure. There's so many different things that mean that a sovereign America will naturally have the incentive structures embedded in it that will lead it to rule the world. So anyone else who doesn't want America to rule the world is going to unite themselves, no matter what their actual individual priorities are. They're going to find themselves as natural allies. And that's going to define the next, I don't know, I would say probably 50 to 100 years. This is the birth of the American empire. This is when America truly comes into its own as a sovereign imperial power, for better or for worse. Okay, good. Audio's better. Hopefully it stays that way. Let's keep going here. More Scott Jennings talking about Pete Hegseth. I've got some more about Pete coming in a little bit as well. But I want to get the Scott Jennings clips in a row here.
Anyone have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years? I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance. Because he's got insiders? All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way,
I think he ought to be given a chance.
That list you just gave is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on, and the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying. How did it go? In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians are responsible for.
So you make a good point. The civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out. And it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters, and he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency, but a bunch of them. Now, look, they've got to perform. They've got to perform. I mean, we got 53 U.S. senators that are Republicans, and Pete Hegseth, he's an American hero. The man won 2 Bronze Stars for his service, and he's been a champion for veterans. He's going to have to go up there just like everybody else and prove his knowledge of how to do this job. He's not immune from that, but we ought to give this man a chance, in my opinion.
In this house, we are Scott Jennings fans. I don't know if I've ever seen someone just burst onto the scene and establish himself as such a force of nature as quickly as he did. And here's another Jennings clip talking about Marco Rubio.
All
right. If
you guys are going to like
Rubio
this one.
Does in fact become Secretary of State, we're going to need a new senator from the state of Florida, and we need someone with Rubio's national security credentials. Now, there's one Floridian who can do it. He stood up to the Russians and the Iranians in the 1980s when he defeated the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, 2 of America's most lethal foes. He is a real American. He fights for the rights of every man. He knows that courage is the thing that keeps us free. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce Ron DeSantis, get on it. Hulk Hogan for U.S. Senate. And what you going to do, Chuck Schumer, when Hulkamania runs wild on you, brother?
All right, we got to leave it there, everyone. Thank you very
Yeah!
much.
All right.
What are you going to do, Chuck Schumer? HH in the chat. Our boy Hulk Hogan. All right. Let's see, do I have both of the tweets from Loki here? No, okay. I got 2 tweets from him. We'll do this one now. So this is from Loki Julianis on Twitter. Good follow. My foreign policy scorecard. Use this to judge candidates because my stream of consciousness thoughts are better than most of what you'll read elsewhere. Israel. You're not going to find anyone who doesn't back the consensus on Israel. Sorry. They just don't exist. Trump is literally the only guy in D.C. who has any freedom of action on this issue. That's probably the most important point. People need this embedded into their skull. Go listen to Pete Quinones's morning message that he put out on his Substack this morning. Have some awareness of the current time. Understand the actual options that are available to you, and don't turn into a gay libertarian about this stuff. Yes. Noticing is on the rise. That's very good. Let's let the noticing continue, and let's accomplish what we can accomplish right now. There's no... There's like this expectation that somehow Trump, to be successful, Trump has to come in and immediately appoint a bunch of people who are going to designate Israel a terrorist state. What world do you live in? I don't care about the facts on the ground there. I care about the facts on the ground here. And the facts on the ground here are that is a political dead issue right now in this current time. Bide your time, and soon it will not be. Observe the trajectory. You got to have maybe this is where the low IQ thing it breaks the bell curve meme or something. The low IQ people can't track the patterns. There's a pattern happening here. Let it go. Let it work its way out. Focus on the things that we can win right now. Russia, Ukraine. At best, you'll find people who think it's a waste of money. I would prefer individuals who at the very least bucked the uncritical support for Ukrainian ultranationalism trend that swept the establishment. Iran. Max pressure is most likely coming back, but also it's been made very clear that we're not going to put ourselves on a war trajectory. Again, this is you got to have the ability to hold multiple thoughts in your head at the same time. Latin America. I actually want to see a neo-Monroe doctrine of sorts, especially regarding the remaining communist governments in the hemisphere. Venezuela is going to be a big target for remigration. Yeah, and I think that this is very clearly being signaled. It's very clearly coming. We're going to start hearing talk about the Monroe doctrine a lot more going forward. China. It would be nice to find individuals who have given any type of extended thought to what the hell we are going to do about this place. Literally any evidence of someone giving any extended consideration at all to the CQ is a good sign in my book. Japan. Greatest ally, non-negotiable. Weebs validated. UK, NATO, same as it ever was, really. Some of those governments are really important allies, but they need to pay their fair share. That being said, I can't imagine the status quo really changing. Australia, they need to table that censorship bill, and I think they know that. Brazil, regime change required. We should form an agricultural cartel with them, but I don't think that's going to happen. Mexico, we need their cooperation on the border. I'm skeptical that their current government will provide that, but I'm sure we can work something out. Here's probably the one that I disagree with them most. I don't really think that there's going to be a lot of working that out, because the way that this is looking to me, as as MAGA takes over the United States, a lot of the MAGA opposition is going to get forced out just by default. This is just the way that power politics works. A lot of the MAGA opposition is going to get forced out, and I suspect what they're going to largely do, and have been doing, is establish a new base of operations north and south of the border. They've been working on that for a while, and I think south of the border is going to have is going to wind up being a lot hotter of a conflict than north for geographic reasons. Canada, Trudeau must answer for his crimes. Also, their open borders policy has allowed a sizable number of illegals to enter through our northern border. Not on the scale of Mexico, but it's still something we need to address. Very good thoughts all around. Now, kind of got buried in all the news today, but the Senate Majority Leader election happened this morning, and it is John Thune, whatever. I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't care. I'll figure it out at some point when I actually listen to a video of people talking about him. But he's the one who won out. So the Rick Scott push didn't work, which means it's a good thing that Trump didn't publicly endorse Rick Scott, because I don't think it would have made as things played out, it wouldn't have made enough of a difference to push Rick Scott over the hump, and it would have been immediate egg on his face. So Thune won out, and now he's got to know where his bread's going to be buttered as well. So there was a pretty fun. Wow, Matt Gaetz has resigned from Congress already. Wow, they must be fairly confident in that nomination happening, or in that nomination being confirmed, or they have a backup plan for him if he's not. Very interesting. We're gonna get to. I got a bunch of Matt Gaetz stuff here in a little bit. So with Thune, he now is going to find himself in a very interesting situation. And I really liked how Trump played this today. Thune was announced. He won the election. And then he did his press conference and committed to pushing through Trump's appointments as quickly as possible so we can get to work on getting his agenda, yada, 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 boilerplate speech. But he publicly committed to pushing through Trump's appointments as quickly as possible. And immediately after that, Trump announced Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, Matt Gaetz, AG, and Kash Patel, FBI director. All right, Thune, whatever your name is. It's time for you to deal with your first conflict in office. But here's some interesting thoughts from Dissident Clint, who's a former Heritage VP and former Senate staffer, Claremont Lincoln alumnus, and he's on Mike Lee's team. And this is his thoughts on how J.D. Vance could still effectively serve as Senate Majority Leader if Thune obstructs the MAGA mandate. This is him with Glenn Beck.
If you have a Thune and he begins to become an obstructionist, does the president have the ability to say, J.D. Vance, go in there and take control of the Senate and do what John Adams did?
Absolutely. So you've talked about this. You've been great about it. There is a little known procedure in the Senate that gives the majority leader the right to be recognized on the floor first. Who decides to recognize them? The person sitting in the chair at the front of the room. That chair belongs to J.D. Vance. Anybody else sitting in that chair is borrowing his seat. He can walk in the room, kick them out, take the seat, and recognize whoever he wants who is going to move President Trump's nominees. So he can actually decide really who's running the show.
Why haven't they done that in the past?
There was talk in the last Trump administration of doing this. I ultimately don't know why they decided not to. There's always a negotiation about these kind of things. Having the threat of doing that is certainly powerful, and maybe Pence just wasn't comfortable with it. JD would probably be a lot more comfortable with that.
Oh, yeah.
He's been a senator.
So I don't know if this is a trump card, so to speak, that they've been holding on to, that they know that they have. They've actually talked about it. They're actually planning on pulling it at some point. Now that it's being talked about publicly like this, even if they didn't know, they're going to know. But one way that I could imagine this going, if they did know this, is that they were fine with whomever the Senate Majority Leader wound up being. They made their push for Rick Scott, and maybe this is a token to repay some loyalty for Rick Scott, that they actually back him. But a big part of Trump being able to rule effectively is going to be he's going to have to throw bones to the establishment. If he doesn't, it's going to make his job much more difficult. This is a simple fact of the state of politics within the American system. He's going to have to do it. We all knew coming in that there was going to be decisions and stuff that didn't go our way. That doesn't mean we can't still try to advocate for them, still push for them, still want them. But necessarily, there's going to have to be some types of compromise in some places. You just don't want to be defined by that compromise. The agenda that the entire MAGA team has set forth is so auspicious and revolutionary that they can fall well short of that, and we're still vastly better off than we would have been otherwise. There's some things that are definitely going to go through. There's some things that aren't. There's some things that are going to have to go through. But if you get spun up or start blackpilling or dooming every single time something doesn't work out, you're not going to make it. What we do have now is this sort of thing being brought up, popularized, pushed out there, which is another arrow in the quiver. And if they were talking about it in the first administration, then they're probably already aware of it. So they can afford a compromise on something like this. Okay, we'll give you guys the Senate Majority Leader that you want. But just know we have him by the balls. At any point, we can publicly humiliate him and put him in his place. And because you guys got this big win that pisses off a bunch of the base, now you're going to have to deal with people trying to mount primary campaigns and stuff against you. Your popularity just went down. So you may have gotten a win, but that win was costly. So this is from Breaking 911. It says, breaking, the Trump transition team is drafting an executive order to create a, quote, warrior board of retired senior military personnel with the authority to review and recommend removal of 3- and 4-star generals deemed unfit for leadership or woke. This is from the Wall Street Journal. I must say, based, and if there's going to be a warrior board with the authority to review and recommend removal of 3- and 4-star generals, you're going to want a Secretary of Defense that is inclined to work with that warrior board. Someone who perhaps thinks that there are a lot of 3- and 4-star generals who are unfit for leadership or woke. And lo and behold, here is the new Secretary of Defense. Now, assuming he actually gets confirmed, there's going to be a big fight over it. But we've got a Secretary of Defense who is Templar pilled. Imagine telling yourself in 2016 that the Secretary of Defense under the third Trump administration has a Deus Vult tattoo on his bicep and a Jerusalem cross tat on his chest. And notice, I don't know what event this was, but there's a very interesting face right up here. Mr. Eric Prince. So here's Pete Hegseth. He just, like a week ago, he was on the Sean Ryan show, and I haven't been able to sit down and listen to it yet. But here's him talking about being labeled an extremist for having a cross tattoo on his chest.
I was deemed an extremist because of a tattoo by my National Guard unit in Washington, D.C. And my orders were revoked to guard the Biden inauguration. Jerusalem cross tattoo, which is just a Christian symbol.
Is that
This is the one.
Is that the tattoo?
Yep, right here. This one is what got me disinvited. I'd never had orders revoked before. I mean, listen, it's a standard deal. You remember after January 6th, everyone was in Washington, D.C. Like Nancy Pelosi had the parking garages full of National Guardsmen. My commander called me a day before, tepidly, and was like, Major, you can just stand down. We don't need you. We're good. I'm like, what do you mean? Everybody's there. He's like, no, he couldn't tell me. When I was writing the book, I reached out to somebody in the unit who could confirm with 99.9% certainty because he was in the meetings and on the emails. Nope, someone inside the DC Guard trolled your social media, found a tattoo, used it as an excuse to call you a white nationalist, an extremist, and you were specifically by name orders revoked to guard the inauguration because you were considered a potential threat.
How is that? It's a cross.
I was
There's a theme with a number of these different appointees. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, Matt Gaetz. There's probably others if I really thought about it, but among those in particular, they're all people who have been directly mistreated or persecuted by the very institutions that they are now going to run. Don't think that that's a coincidence. This is also, Republicans against Trump are very upset about this. If you're what's Trump's approval rating among Republicans? Like 98%? Yeah, if you're an anti-Trump Republican, like I don't even know how you could define yourself as a Republican. This is our new Secretary of Defense.
A well-groomed militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms while smelling great shall not be infringed. I don't mind those tweaks. You see, one-man army loves the country and makes damn good soap. I've used them all, and I love these new brands. Like Gunsmoke, smells like American firepower. Or Gurkha, refined bourbon and tobacco leaf. Or how about Patriot and the Pine Tar Bar? There's more of them, too. You can get them in a variety pack. Each of them shaped like a grenade, soap on a rope. The well-groomed militia. This 4th of July, join it at grenadesoap.com. A well-groomed militia.
Our guy. He's got the pit vipers. Here's more. He's a total bro.
Yo, Independence Day is almost here. We're getting ready in the Hegseth household. We celebrate America, Old Glory, and the freedoms our forefathers fought to establish. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to bear arms, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know the thing, as Joe likes to say. We also know we're one nation under God. There are a lot of folks trying to divide us right now, but we know who we are. We love God, our families, and our republic. Your support of veteran-owned, American-made, anti-woke companies like Palmetto State Armory, Caliber Coffee, Right to Bear Self-Defense, and AAC Ammunition keeps us strong at home. We vote with our feet and our dollars to stay free. To that end, AAC just rolled out a new line of AK-47 ammo. That's right, because Russian ammo is now banned. So now you can buy American-made 7.62. That's what I'm talking about. Check the text below for more info. Happy Independence Day, everybody. From our family to yours, God bless America.
Shout out to Lee. He says the new SecDef is a dude in a novelty wife beater doing plugs for AAC, Palmetto State Armory, and domestic 7.62 ammo, and you have the absolute audacity to be blackpilling right now? We are reaching levels of back that are unheard of. Now, I didn't really know a whole lot about Pete Hegseth. As soon as I started looking into him, I remembered him because what stood out to me about where I'd heard of him in the past was when he was at some sort of event with Fox and he was doing an axe throw and he completely missed the target, sent it over, and almost took out a drummer from the marching band. That was my awareness of him. But as soon as I started looking stuff up, all of my military guys that I follow, that I'm friends with, that I keep track of, were universally exultant about him. They were like, our guy. This is, we can hardly believe this. And I'm inclined to trust those guys on such matters. Because that's not my forte. Terry Schappert said, years ago, Pete Hegseth brought me on to MC events for concerned vets as he was working on VA reform. He's an extremely smart guy and knows what's fucked up. He'll take this job very seriously. This choice will send a lot of people into orbit. So he has, he went to Princeton and to Harvard, and he did a big dramatic thing a little while back where he tore up his diploma and like sent it back to Harvard and in protest. So he can bro down, but he's also got Ivy experience. So he knows how to move in those halls. He's a very, very interesting character. Paul Fahrenheit. If Hegseth is good enough for Paul Fahrenheit, I don't want to hear anybody complaining. He says Hegseth as SecDef means a complete top-to-bottom military restructuring is what Trump wants. Dude is an 04 who will judge 4 stars. Whatever reforms he begins, I want to be a part of. And then shout out to Neo Americana. Curtis LeMay did nothing wrong on Twitter. He says, dude has a bunch of threeper tats. I'm so here for it. Trump should terrorize D.C. as much as possible with barbarians from the hills. This dude's going to be the Secretary of Defense, folks. Tall, powerful white guy. At War to the State said, libtard women's ovaries are going to awaken in ways never seen before when they see SecDef Hegseth's beefcake photos. Shout out to the ladies. They get some eye candy in government. But he's not just a pretty face. Got a brain on him.
There's a chance to course correct it, but it would take the new Trump administration going after it really hard.
How would they correct it?
Well, first of all, you got to fire. You got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit, it's got to go.
Yeah.
Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. That's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking. And then, whatever the standards, whatever the combat standards were, say, in, 1995, let's just make those the standards. And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve. And there's lots of other ways in which you could identify who gets promoted and what, but there's an ethos change. I mean, there's a reason people don't want to serve, because they don't trust that their senior leaders are going to have their best interest in mind in combat. I know there were mistakes made on our tours all over the place, but I, at least for the most part, had a sense that my senior leaders were committed to the completion of the mission for the right reasons. And maybe there were strategic differences and all that other stuff, and it wasn't always perfect, but that trust is broken, and you have to reestablish that trust by putting in no-nonsense warfighters in those positions who aren't going to cater to the socially correct garbage.
Saying all the right stuff. And he's saying some spicy stuff, too.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles.
Yes.
It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. We've all served with women, and they're great. It just, our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where not traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable. I'm straight up just...
That's people who have been following me for a long time might remember a conversation I had about this subject in the past. And I don't want to air anybody out, but I have said for a long time that a nation that has women in its military, like having women in your military, period, is a sign of civilizational collapse. Women should not want to be in the military. Not just that, like, they shouldn't be allowed. They shouldn't want to be there. If women want to be in the military or are being incentivized to be in the military, your civilization has collapsed. The entire premise of a military is masculine. The men are the ones who fight the wars. By the time women are fighting wars, the war's already lost. The idea that we could have a Secretary of Defense who is on the record within the last week saying women should not be in combat roles, this is a good frickin' start. Here's Pete Hegseth on with Jack Posobiec explaining how he would go to war against DEI and wokeness in the Pentagon.
I'm just going to say this is classic Marxism. This is Marxism the same way you would use it's dialectic warfare. So the dialectic warfare of shape people so that the incentive structure is set up for you to be following a political institution and a political set of ideals and a political set of these correct values, ideologies, etc., to get you to the top. Whereas, I'm sure when you were in uniform, when I was in uniform, I didn't talk politics. I wasn't interested in talking politics. It isn't about politics.
Never.
It's about what are we doing to accomplish the mission and achieve the commander's intent. That's it, because that's what we signed up for. So we don't care, liberal, Democrat, whatever it is, but you start to see these things along the way that they politicize the military the same way they politicize any institution. And then once they've conducted institutional capture, once they've achieved institutional capture, it's like running a military operation on the military itself. That's when you go, so Biden, full institutional capture. Now you go top down, and now we can go to the junior ranks. You can go to the NCOs. You can go to the petty officers in Navy, and you can just start wiping out anybody because there's no one left to hold anyone accountable for these things.
And that's why you saw most of the more aggressive actions of the Obama administration happen in the second half of the second term. He didn't do it right away because he knew institutionally he could not. So take something for like women in combat roles, for example, which rolled out in 2014 into 2015. That was would have been an extremely controversial topic 8 years before that, in the middle of a shooting war, when there was a recognition that men and women are different, and that bone density and lung capacity and muscle mass are different, and adding the variable of women into all male units on the front lines might add some complicating factors. But by 2015, 2016, you had a Secretary of the Navy in Ray Mabus and other services, especially the Air Force and the Army. They just laid down. They didn't even try to fight. They said, okay, at least the Marine Corps conducted a study, and they studied 400 male Marines versus 300 male Marines and 100 female Marines. And no surprise, after months of study, the all-male unit massively outperformed the mixed gender unit. But what did the Secretary of the Navy do?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine having to conduct a study to answer that question? This is what happens when you have eggheads running your military. Like, honestly, I don't really care. I mean, ultimately, I do care about like the individual ideological proclivities of the men in power. But as like a fundamental, much more base level consideration than that, I just, like, is it too much to ask for a dude who knows the difference between dudes and chicks? Can we at least cross that threshold where you don't have to go perform a study to find out which will perform better, an all-male platoon or a mixed gender platoon? Which will be? This is crazy town.
At that point, because he knew who his handlers were, threw the study out and said, I don't care, integrate every single billet. And that's the type of mindset that takes hold everywhere. It's not about standards and lethality and accountability and meritocracy. It's about, what do my political handlers demand based on some societal objective that does not align with the most effective fighting force. And that's where they abdicate their responsibility. They abdicate their oath, but they've been well placed to be the types of people that already want to abdicate or are willing to, because they're cowards with stars on their shoulders, and they go along to get along. They want to make the next rank, and then they want their spot on the board of the defense contractor after that, and they want to be liked by the chattering class. So there's a careerism problem involved in all of it too. But it was set up by systematically creating, as you said, different types of incentives. And now here we are in Biden, and it's a straight off CRT, DEI, gender-based, right out of a Marxist playbook if you wanted to remake an institution.
Andrew Torba, with perhaps one of the best takes, the outgoing Secretary of Defense versus the incoming Secretary of Defense. That hits. All right, now, you might be thinking, this all seems too good to be true. Could we possibly be getting a guy like this with no downsides Unfortunately, there's a downside. Oh, come on. Share. Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, is apparently a third temple nut. Here's Hegseth in 2018 at the King David Hotel, site of the birth of the modern post-World War II age of terror bombings, telling his Israeli constituency to buy a lottery ticket for a miracle of rebuilding the third temple under true believers Trump, Pence, and Haley, and do what they need to do on the ground in Jerusalem to make that happen.
But we are here in Jerusalem. And today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you. And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen. You don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen. That's all I know. And a step in that process, a step in every process, is the recognition that facts and activities on the ground truly matter. And that's why going and visiting Judea and Samaria, understanding that sovereignty, the very sovereignty of Israeli soil, Israeli cities, locations, is a critical next step to showing the world that this is the land for Jews and the land of Israel. And I believe, as was mentioned, he said you need to, what was mentioned is you need to buy the ticket. Don't just wish for 40 years to win the lottery, buy the ticket. I would submit to you, in light of the support you have in Washington, D.C., the support you have amongst patriotic Americans, amongst evangelical Christians, amongst believers, amongst Republicans, even amongst some Democrats who can barely say it anymore in Washington, buy the ticket, take your action, do what needs to be done here in Israel, because I truly believe this is a moment where America will have your back. You have Donald Trump in the White House. You have Mike Pence as vice president. You have Nikki Haley at the UN. You have true believers in Israel and America that have your back.
Wit says, red heifer time, baby. And Screwed Up Rebellion says, Oliver Anthony and Kathy Griffin were already sacrificed. Oh, that's the take of the night, man. Yeah, so it's good watching the chat. You guys entertain me, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? I don't even have to say anything. Like, you guys get it. He's a net positive. Obviously, this is not the sort of thing that I want to hear coming out of my Secretary of Defense's mouth. However, I do recognize that we're not going to win everything right now, and this is a good time to remind you guys of one of the theses that I proposed a while back that is being reinforced for me more and more. And that is that we are watching the part of this formation of like a new world and this ruling coalition that's coming in. There's two types of Israel sympathetic people within them. One type says America exists for the sake of Israel. The other one says America should exist for the sake of Israel. The other one says that America exists and so should Israel. And this seems like a small distinction, but it's an important distinction. I remember, let's see, this is 2018, so 6 years ago. And as Silverpine mentioned, I put it up on the screen there. You said with Sean Ryan, I saw someone else mentioning this that I haven't listened to it yet, but I saw someone else said the same thing, that he called himself a recovering neocon. Now, he seems very, he's like a normie-con bro. Like that's who he is. He's a normie-con bro. So when he says neocon, I doubt that he has the same associations with neocon as we do. That's more just kind of like the stuffy old conservative, they got us into the wars and whatever. He's reacting to that. I don't really have a lot of Like, I'm not going to say, I think he's learned a lot since then and he's completely changed. Maybe. He entirely could have. Even if he hasn't. I remember about that long ago, I was like, yeah, Israel's cool, man. Yeah, that's like, the Holy Land, and, it's Israel, our greatest ally. Like, I didn't have some deep fawning affection for him, but if you're part of just general American culture, then your perspective on Israel is going to be like, yeah, it's like the one democracy in the Middle East, and, they're our allies, and we've had this bludgeoned into us for decades. So being Israel affectionate, and this guy, he seems like he's a bit like, he's a beefcake. So he wants to go out, he wants to be liked, he wants to be kind of bombastic and popular, and he wants to go get people riled up and have everyone excited. And so he's just going and saying the popular thing. It's entirely plausible that that's the case. But even if that's not the case, even if he is like, his decision making is going to be drastically affected by his feelings on the state of Israel. As Woe from the Stone Choir podcast said, please raise your hand if you voted for Donald Trump because you expected him to declare Israel a terrorist state. This changes nothing. And this is him quote tweeting Michael Tracy, who I finally just had to block because I'm so tired of seeing Michael Tracy. He's so predictable. He has the exact same take on everything. And as soon as something like this happens, here we go. He's going to dredge up all of the clips and come out and try to contrarian his way through every single conversation. He's a Pete Hegseth, Trump's new pick for defense secretary, says, if you open your Bible, you'll find that God granted Abraham the land of Israel, and this should apparently inform our understanding of the modern Israel-Palestine conflict. Yes, this is the default opinion of, 80% of the population, because we've all been subjected to decades of insane propaganda toward this end. If you elected Trump, thinking that you were, as he said, you expected him to declare Israel a terrorist state, you're a moron. Clearly, his administration is going to be full of Israel sympathetic people. But just because they're Israel sympathetic doesn't mean they can't do good things for us and put us in a better place. Or help, or let me rephrase that. Allow us to put ourselves into a better place. Caucasus Forever says, the freakouts over Trump's pick come from naive people who don't understand how power works. Pete is a tall, overachieving Aryan Chad with a hot wife, 7 kids, and a Deus Vult tattoo. All things considered, it could be worse. Yes. And Woe says, the very worst things about Pete change literally nothing. The very best things are a death knell for some of our biggest threats. Fuck everyone who can't see that. Hear, hear. The black pillar's got to go, man. Just start blocking them. Just start blocking them. Another thought from Woe here. He says, the guys who are panicking at the first hint of anything not going perfectly are telling on themselves. No actual man behaves like a frightened little girl. It betrays inexperience, insecurity, and mental and spiritual weakness. Mark them as cowards and move on. This goes for the black pillars. They go in the crystal. They're cowards. Move on. Here's the other tweet I had from Loki. Elon getting a bunch of otherwise disengaged young men interested in how the government works is an existential threat to the current system in ways that cannot be quantified. Note this 13.1 million. That's because he got the old Elon retweet. One of our guys, we're going to see another one of our guys here in just a minute, who got the Elon retweet in the last couple of days. But this is a really good point. Elon has such a force of personality. He's such an idol for so many young men that him getting really active in politics is going to draw all the young men. It's going to draw their interest and their investment into the political system, which on net is undeniably going to be a positive thing. There's going to be downsides. There's going to be shit that happens or whatever. But in the long run, getting young men re-engaged in civic duty and awareness of geopolitical things and the movings of power politics is undeniably a good thing. All right, so let's get to some more white pills here. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We've got 198 watching right now and 89 likes. So we're at like 50%. Let's see if we can get to 125. I've got 2 more windows worth of tabs here. First one. Mr. Bukele. He weighs in very quickly, almost as if he knew what was coming down the pike. Matt Gaetz has been nominated to be the Attorney General. This is going to be so much fun. I got giddy when I saw this. In part because it means, at least for the time being, that Ken Paxton is staying in Texas, which on net, I prefer Ken Paxton in Texas. I think it's very good to have Ken Paxton in Texas. But Matt Gaetz, oh boy. Pants are getting shitted today when this news broke. One person who's not upset about it, though, is Mr. Bukele. He says, I knew you were destined to do great things, my friend. Sean Davis says the FBI and DOJ previously tried to frame Matt Gaetz with the help of a con artist who was trying to extort Gaetz' family out of tens of millions of dollars. I can't think of a more perfect choice to tear the most corrupt agency on earth down to the studs. Bravo, President Trump. This is a declaration of war. People wondered if Trump was serious about going to war with the deep state. Doing things like putting Tulsi at DNI and Gaetz at as Attorney General and Kash Patel at the FBI. Oh, yeah. These people have been personally aggrieved. They've seen very clearly exactly what the nature of the deep state is like. They are proven Trump loyalists, and they believe fervently in the need to absolutely overhaul and or destroy these institutions. Fisher King said, if you wanted to know whether Trump planned any kind of retribution against those who weaponized the DOJ against him, I would say appointing Matt Gaetz as AG would dispel any doubts. Indeed. And it just so happens that 3 hours before this was announced, this is what Matt Gaetz posted. We ought to have a full court press against this weaponized government that has been turned against our people. And if that means abolishing every one of the 3-letter agencies from the FBI to the ATF, I'm ready to get going. Hell yeah. An interesting note about Matt Gaetz. He is close personally to Peter Thiel in multiple ways. In part because he's married to, I believe, the sister of Palmer Luckey. Remember the company Anduril? I've played some of their hype videos. Palmer Luckey's been an OG supporter of Trump for a long time. This is PayPal Mafia influence right here. Here's Charlie Kirk. Says your next AG.
So they said that if we win, things will be greater than ever before, and Matt Gaetz has a new job.
Charlie Kirk's driver. I'm honored for the promotion.
We're making America great again, and we found Matt Gaetz some
work. Jokes. Here's your next Attorney General. You just didn't march and resist hard enough, ladies. Imagine this. Imagine this guy as the chief lawyer in the United States.
Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, man. This is going to be so much fun. And I mean, the first thing I said when I saw it was, oh, man, this nomination process, the confirmation process for him is going to be very, very interesting. Of all of these picks, he seems like the one that's going to be the hardest. I mean, Hegseth is probably going to be hard to get confirmed, but Gaetz is going to be really hard to get confirmed, to the point where I almost see it as, but if it's true that he's already resigned as a congressman, then I'd be very interested to see what their plans are. If they're that confident that he's going to get confirmed, or if they have a backup plan for him, and he's basically the big ask that gets they don't confirm him, and you fall back to someone like Paxton or something like that. I'd be very interested I would love to be a fly on the wall and know what the thinking is with all of this. But Thomas Massey's a fan. If Thomas Massey's a fan, I don't know how you could possibly not be. This is him reacting to reporters asking him about Matt Gaetz for AG. Now, I don't know if you guys could totally hear what he said here, but she asked him, do you think he'll get confirmed? And Massey said he doesn't need to. It's a recess appointment. Now, I should have saved this other tweet that I had for this, but Trump can adjourn both branches of Congress and do this himself. Just appoint them as recess appointments. And there's a rumor that that's what the plan is. So they wouldn't even have to get confirmed. He could just appoint them directly. Now, it'd be a political battle, but this will be a very interesting test to see if they actually do it and if they're able to pull it off. Perhaps one of the most important things about Matt Gaetz is he has taken $0 from AIPAC. He is not funded by the Israel lobby. And here is him. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I had some of these other windows. Did I pass that part already? Let's see. Oh, yeah, here we go. So I've got some stuff on Gaetz. Before I get to that one, let's go to this one here. Bannon reacting.
Matt Gaetz is the fiercest of the fierce warriors. He is the firebrand of firebrands. Matt Gaetz, single-handedly conceived of, in this very building, the Breitbart Embassy, conceived of the exact strategy and tactics and execution to take down a sitting speaker. That first off, to hogtie a sitting speaker of the House for the first time ever, and to do it in January 23 with McCarthy, and then to take him out 9 months later after he had lied to everybody. That's the kind of individual Matt Gaetz is. Brilliant, determined, focused, relentless. That's what President Trump wanted.
And then here is Scott Jennings reacting to Matt Gaetz.
Scott, I don't think I'm divulging or betraying any confidences to say that when we told you the news, you were in disbelief.
Are you not entertained? I mean, this is the most entertaining transition I've ever seen. No, I was as surprised as Paula, because it's not a name that we had seen. You know, we'd seen some reporting, a lot of different names, frankly, a lot of really sort of well-heeled Washington legal types that were on the list. So I'm as surprised as anyone. But what I take away from this is that this is a president-elect who is feeling his power. I mean, this is someone who is appointing people to things, whether it's Gaetz or anything else we've seen today, who is feeling his power, feeling his influence, doesn't feel like he's in a mood to negotiate with the people in Washington, D.C. He's here to do what he wants to do, and he's going to expect the Republicans to fall in line. Now, all these people, whether it's Gaetz or Hegseth or anyone else, have to go to confirmation and go through these committee hearings and prove themselves like anyone else. But it is apparent to me that Trump is in a decisive mood and is not someone who's interested in picking things that he would consider to be watered down. So that's my initial reaction to this. I mean, we truly learned about it 2 seconds before we came on here, so pretty wild day.
Yeah, we had to say it is on Trump's Truth Social account. It is coming from his mouth, right? It's coming from his account. Megan, your reaction?
I mean, yesterday we had a bunch of conventional picks, and I think people felt good about where we were going and maybe thought that he was going to be a little bit more moderated than we were expecting. And then today brought a whole new set of people to confirm. So I think it's a little bit shocking with this and with Tulsi Gabbard with DNI. So I just, I think it'll be interesting to see what tomorrow brings. But I do agree. Who knows if this is going to, how many of these people are going to actually get confirmed? I think there are a lot of people. And
who do you think will have the most trouble being confirmed? And do you expect that there will be some who are not?
Well, look, I think that for the most part, these people, I mean, they do have qualifications. I mean, Matt Gaetz is a lawyer, and he has been in Congress, and obviously is a supporter of the president's agenda, and he'll have supporters in the Senate. They all get a chance to go and compete and go and
He's
prove
been on
themselves.
both sides of the legal system, as it were.
So, but he, like everyone else, they have to go up there and prove themselves. But you can't underestimate Donald Trump's influence over the Republicans in the Senate on this, and he's going to be insistent that he get his government and his administration. And look, here's the thing. He won. And he won the popular vote, and he believes he has a mandate, and honestly, I think he does too. And some of these picks are conventional. Marco Rubio, for instance, well-known name. But some of them are designed to shake up Washington. And I am assuming that's what Donald Trump believes he's doing here with a few of these folks, is I'm not here to pick the Washington people, I'm here to pick the people who will shake up Washington. That's going to be one of them.
I also think some of these picks are a little...
Indeed, indeed. All right, you guys have had a couple of good thoughts here. So let me get my tab straight. And then I got a quote from David Sachs here from Taylor Brown. He says, Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress as soon as he was nominated for AG. This is a burn the boats move. No going back, only forward. Total winner's mentality. So it's that, or there's this other thing that that Taylor shared, which is very interesting. Report, House Ethics Committee was going to release a damaging report on Matt Gaetz on Friday, but now that he has resigned, the committee has lost jurisdiction. That's funny. If that's true, then whatever was going to be in that report would certainly come out in a confirmation hearing. So it's seeming more and more like if Massey is saying recess appointments, this move with Gaetz seems to indicate to me that we're going to get recess appointments. They're not even going to have to get confirmed. So here's my last Gaetz clip talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
Why is the world's foremost pederast protected? This makes no sense. Like this is like evil, right? Like everyone agrees on it. It's like you got a 99%
on Epstein. Bill Barr is the one that needs to be called in to give sworn testimony on what happened there at Bureau of Prisons, because that is not that. There's just no way that the story you're getting is the real story there. No freaking way, and Bill Barr knows it.
I think most people believe that, right? Like it's got no way that that's.
I actually think it was I actually think that on Epstein, it was a foreign government that took him out. I don't think it was a domestic enterprise.
Really?
I do. I'm not going to say which one, but I don't think it was domestic inspired to take out of him. I think that was a foreign operation, government sponsored.
So foreign operation took out Epstein inside of our prison.
Yes.
So they must have been allowed to.
Oh, I think it was in concert with people in our government.
Wow.
But not like some, low level guard getting bribed kind of way.
Yeah.
At a state to state level.
So that's probably a lot of partied interests in keeping that.
That's a very short list. I may not be thinking of any other possible nation that he could be thinking of, but there's basically two. And those two are really kind of one. There's a square mile district in the middle of London that makes it so. I suspect that Mr. Gaetz knows more than he is letting on.
That under wraps.
You better believe it. Weapon systems at play, global deals at play.
Interesting. You have evidence to back that up?
I just am positing it as a theory.
Wow. Okay. What about UFOs?
Well, we're learning more each and every day. You're getting the titrated leaking on the UFOs. Like it's now open source information that the CIA has a program around craft recovery. It's not a question anymore. And so that's probably where I would start, the craft recovery and the biologics that have been.
Someone said here in the chat that Thune had already, Woodpit 420 says, I believe Thune has already approved recess appointments. I didn't see that. I'd be very curious to know if that's the case, because so here's the thing about someone like Thune is, and really with a lot of the old Republican Guard, a lot of those people, there's like the few specific operators who are like deeply committed to the cause, and the rest of them are just mercenaries. who've been following the power. So if you want to look at their previous record and try to cast them as some sort of rabid ideologue, they're going to maybe look like a rabid ideologue because they've been saying all the things that they need to say to maintain power, whatever bit of power, to stay close to power and keep whatever little bit of it that they can. And so then if the power structure shifts, then they're just going to follow along with it. I think this is what Marco Rubio is. I think he's a Trump loyalist because he knows that he's going to ride Trump's coattails. And if he rides Trump's coattails, he's going to be, he's freaking Secretary of State because he rode Trump's coattails. If you try to read in, it's a lot of our guys are so deeply philosophically committed to particular worldviews that they project that onto other people. But you can't believe that these people are all like super corrupt, incompetent, bumbling idiots, but also they're really rabidly ideologically. Those things don't really go along together very well. The reason they're kind of bumbling idiots is because they're just trying to track with power wherever it is. And so they'll completely contradict themselves. They'll do one thing and then do another. They'll say one thing and then do another thing, or they'll do one thing and then do an opposite thing because they're just trying to keep themselves instantiated wherever they are and make the next move, advance their own careers. And what's so significant with Trump is that he has redefined what political power is in the United States. So now, of course, everyone, all the power seekers are just going to track with him. Now, there are people who are deeply ideological, and they're going to keep making their deeply ideological decisions. But just as with the vast majority of the population at large, there's probably a Pareto distribution here where you could look at 80% of federal employees, 80% of congressmen, 80% of executive branch appointments. Of those people, 80% are just sort of normies who are just going to track with the political winds wherever they blow. The other 20% are ideologues of one shape or another. But the vast majority of people are just going to fall in line. So someone like Thune could very well just fall in line. He knows where his bread is buttered now. If he wants to not wind up being disgraced, then there's a pretty well-documented track record now of people going against Trump and winding up humiliated and disgraced. So eventually, if there's one thing that these people know how to do, it's follow power. And that power is becoming very clear. All right, here's the new director of national intelligence. This is I'm throwing out red meat to the boys here.
3, 2, 1, go.
Bitch, I'm stylish. Glock talk, big t-shirt, Billy. Watch on my wrist, but I want that diamond. Niggas talk crazy when I pull up in sight. Alright, run that shit back, bitch, I'm stylish. Glock talk, big t-shirt, Billy. Watch on my wrist, but I want that diamond. Niggas talk crazy when I pull up in sight. Hey, fuck up first class, I'm the put it in perspective. Bitch, I got everything I wanted and some extra. I am not the type to turn it into a detective. Got two on my own phone, barely even checked.
A friend of mine said that he realized that now Tulsi is going to be able to remove herself from the terrorist watch list that they put her on. Shout out to Tulsi. I genuinely didn't think she was going to get a premier cabinet position like this. I didn't think she had the sand in her pants, the professional sand in her pants to be able to actually get something like this. So, man, she's going to be the one responsible for putting together the president's daily briefing. She is now the executive head of the intelligence community, formally. Now, clearly, the intelligence community is not entirely a formal body, so she's got her work cut out for her. But she owes a tremendous amount to President Trump, and she has every reason to be loyal to him. And she is deeply motivated on a personal level to actually follow through on all these things, just like Gaetz, just like Hegseth, and just like Kash Patel. Now, I had this one in here because it was just rumored. rumored to be the next FBI director following appointment of John Ratcliffe as CIA director. And it has now been confirmed. But I had this one here also set up. Bannon confirming that Kash Patel will be named the new FBI director when Chris Wray resigns or is fired by Trump after January 20.
Must make sure we're having inroads, folks, but we have not seized the institution. 202-224-3121. I just want the audience to know your impact. Right now, it's being reported not by the war room. We're repeating what other news sources are saying. It looks like Kash Patel may be the new director of the FBI, and Tulsi Gabbard may be the new head of DNI, the director of national intelligence, which, as you know, all 17 intelligence agencies, including the Central Intelligence Agency, report up to that. Must make sure we're having inroads.
Okay, see, I have been told to look at Tom Luongo's tweet about Tulsi Gabbard. So I am looking for it now. Scrolling down. I got an hour ago. I'm not seeing it. Can you DM it to me, Taylor? Yeah, I don't see the one you're talking about. Shoot me a DM real quick, and I'll pull it up. While I am waiting for that, I've got a comment here on Scott Bessent, who is rumored for Treasury Secretary. Steve Day said, from a little birdie, been seeing a lot of concern about Scott Bessent on the right. I had a couple interactions with him while he was the CIO of Soros's family office. So a Soros family office guy. Well, that seems like a red flag. One thing I do know about him is that he is very smart and doesn't share the same political beliefs as George. He's more of a traditional fiscal conservative, no idea where he is socially. He's almost certainly not one of us, but I will be shocked if he isn't light years better than anything we've had in decades because he's genuinely concerned about the national debt and is an incredible investor and understands markets and market cycles. I know a lot of people that are close to him, and they all have glowing things to say about him. Just my 2 cents given the amount of angst I'm seeing online. And this reply here is very interesting. Bessent had a lead role in collapsing the British pound in 1992. If you followed the story of George Soros, you know about his role, know that Soros did that. She says, I question someone's judgment if ethically they partner with Soros and manipulate currencies in order to line their own pockets. Past behavior is a good predictor of future behavior. This pick makes me nervous. So he joined Soros Fund Management in 1991, was a partner there throughout the 1990s, eventually becoming the head of the London office. In 1992, he was a leading member of the team whose bet regarding the collapse of the British pound garnered over $1 billion for the firm. His bet against the Japanese yen in 2013 brought additional profit. This is very interesting. I don't know anything about him apart from this. This is just something that caught my eye, so I wanted to highlight it while we were on the subject of his different appointments. We'll see if he's actually going to be the appointment for Treasury Secretary. But I will be waiting earnestly to see what Tom Luongo has to say about him. All right, let me see if I can. Okay, there it is. I know Tom's a big Tulsi fan. He said, Tulsi Gabbard is now the second most powerful person in the White House. She controls the president's daily intelligence briefings. This will lift the pressure off the analysts at the intelligence agencies who couldn't pass good intelligence up the chain of command. This is one of the most consequential appointments here, far more than Secretary of State. Yes. Yes. There is now... So... people have the impression of the swamp, the deep state, the intelligence community, whatever you want to call it, being just a whole hive of scum and villainy. But that's not the case. There's plenty of so-called white hats out there. There's lots of good people who are in the intelligence community, but they haven't been able to, they're behind enemy lines, so to speak, and they get blocked off. They're not able to, like, the very act of trying to bring certain things to the president's attention will get them. So now having Tulsi, who's going to be very, very sympathetic to any sort of corruption in there, being the person at the top, she's going to be seeking out that sort of stuff. So this is going to empower whatever white hats there are within the intelligence community. The power dynamic has just flipped. They're now the ones who are going to be on the ends with the director, who has a direct line to the president, who's been a core part of his team. If you watch The Art of the Surge, she was one of the people. They had their tweeting war room during the Kamala speech at the DNC, and she was one of the key people in there, along with Matt Gaetz. These are core Trump insiders, part of the inner circle, and she's now the head of the intelligence community. Another super chat up here. More leaf bucks. 10 of them this time from Qwerty ZZ7. He says, political ideologies tend not to be numbing idiots. Said the guy who was late getting his caps lock unstuck. I've wondered if you're who I think you are, and I think I know who you are. Shout out to the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Go join up. I was sitting here trying to get the show done, and you guys may not know this, but every single post that happens in the King Pill Discord, I get a notification for. And I could turn that off, and eventually I'm going to have to turn that off. But for now, I've left it on because it's really easy. If I don't have notifications for something, it's really easy for me to forget about it. And there's certain days where that's I just have to throw my phone across the room because it doesn't stop. And I appreciate that. I don't want you guys to stop posting. But if you guys want a really active community that's digging into all this stuff and accumulating all these different stories and discussing them and having all the smartest takes on the internet about them, and building up networks across the country together, then go to the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Go join up. Oh, actually, that reminds me. I almost forgot. I need to tell you guys about Axios Fitness Coaching. Because JD has been posting... He's been posting physique in there lately, and if you guys want to get inspired, you need to be joining up with Axios Fitness Coaching. The current moment we live in is one that prioritizes the inverse of whatever makes men strong, healthy, and capable. The quality of our food continues to decline, plastics construct everything around us, and the virtues of beauty and strength are continuously denigrated by spiteful mutants. To sustain ourselves, we have to take a pathway of action that cultivates and revitalizes our spirit. Return to being builders of culture instead of consumers of a cheap, synthetic excuse for life. That pathway will require an adoption of physical discipline, and this is what Axios Fitness Coaching seeks to help bring about. So it's more than just getting fit. It's more than just making yourself look good. It's more than just being healthier. It's about the discipline itself of developing that routine, that ritual, and using that ritual to redefine your life. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. They offer standalone training programs as well as individual coaching options should your needs require a more specific approach. Axios is best known for the Training Club, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to take action against the decay of modernity. By joining the club, you get access to over 20 different programs that can be personally tailored to your strength levels, available equipment, and injury history. The guys in the Discord have been raving about the app. The app is phenomenal. And if you join the King Pill Discord at the Lord or the King tier, you're going to get 5 free training templates, which gives you access to the app, and you can start using it yourself. And you can also complete the intake survey. By doing so, you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any of their other services. It's long past time we take our health back into our own hands. Without action, there's only degeneration. So if you would like to begin your own discipline building journey, then click the link in the description on the YouTube video, or if you're listening to this podcast later on, and the link is in there as well. Look for the Axios Fitness link. Go fill out the intake survey for free, and you can schedule a time to talk to them and see how they can help you. They can customize a program for you based on your dietary needs or your injury history, anything like that. And if you join the King Pill Discord at the Lord or the King tier, then you get the 5 free training templates with access to the app, and you can also fill out the intake survey there as well. So go do that. I've seen some of you guys. You guys want to look like JD. You want JD to help you look like JD. All right. Charlie Kirk reveals the 2024 Trump campaign blueprint that won Donald Trump the White House. Oh, you're going to be like that? I'll just refresh you.
However, I disagree. There were still some late breakers and undecided people. I do think that pool was less than 2%, though. I think Donald Trump's
2% is a lot, though.
And Donald Trump's campaign strategy, of which we helped execute on the ground in some of these states, was like, guys, don't spend your time knocking on doors about a suburban soccer mom who's weighing her options. Instead, because that takes 9 contacts to try to get her. 9 points of contact on average. Conversations, discussions, and they could be 30 minutes on it. Instead, turning point, go spend your time in very Republican areas where there are non-registered or what we call disengaged voters. People that like Trump, like his worldview. For example, the bro vote, right? And so this is where we spent our time, and we harvested, not ballot harvested, but we harvested in a very, very powerful way.
FanDuel Americans. That's the best term for it. The bro vote, it's the FanDuel Americans.
At Arizona State University, for example, we registered thousands of young men to vote in fraternities. And that was way easier than us going to try to win over swing voters. And we did a little bit of that, but generally the Trump campaign was brilliant because they threw the Republican consultant playbook out. The Republican consultant playbook was spend all your time on the middle, on those like middle 15% swing voters and go all in. Trump campaign said, why don't we just make our base bigger? Why don't we just make the people who love us the most? And so what they looked at was demographics. And they realized if we can make the electorate 3% more masculine, and by the way, they were so smart to do this.
This is Susie?
This is Susie and James Blair and La Savita. And they were so smart because they said, wait a second, what is more important than race? Whether or not you're a man or a woman actually dictates your political affiliation far more of a correlation than your race. So they de-emphasized racial politics and they emphasized more of a masculine machismo approach. And boy, did it work. And not only did it work, you're running up against a woman. So it's easier to kind of make that argument. And so I don't mean to monopolize the time.
But this is...
Wait a second. I have been reliably informed that Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita were tanking the Trump campaign. That they were deep state operatives. They were globalist plants in there to ruin Trump, to lead him astray. That he was always doomed as long as he had those losers around.
It's really interesting. Keep going.
And so what the Trump campaign then did, the Republican consultant playbook that Karl Rove basically authored was everything is about high propensity. So there's 2 types of voters, high propensity and low propensity voters. A high propensity voter is typically college educated, lives in the suburbs. You know, they watch Chris, they watch CNN. They have an income over $100,000 a year. They have 2 kids and a picket fence, and they go to soccer games and they don't commit crimes. You know, that type of demo, right? High propensity voters is where the Republican Party has always been focused. Okay, but Trump came in and he said, no. We're going to focus on low propensity voters. The welder, the electrician, the carpenter, the police officer, or the person that's just not registered to vote. Where I thought that Donald Trump was going to win, and I wasn't as confident as anybody else, okay, was when I started to see the voter registration surge across the country. In the summer before this last summer, new people that were registering to vote were registering at a clip 3-1 versus Democrat. In Pennsylvania, for the first time ever, in Pennsylvania, for the first time ever, we had every county in Pennsylvania, we were out registering Democrats for the first time ever. Now, mind you, what Josh Shapiro did as governor of Pennsylvania is he put in a thing called motor voter, which means you automatically get registered to vote. They thought that was going to help Democrats.
When you get your license.
When you get your driver's license. It helped Republicans because of lower, think about who's not registered to vote. It's typically lower propensity voters, and PBD, here's the kicker. Where do these people get their information? Lower propensity voters get information on TikTok. They're not watching CNN. They're not sitting, you know why? These folks are darn tired by the time they get home. They're not turning on cable news. They're watching NFL football games. They're the ones that are not going to be able to quote to you, Marbury. They're not, by the way.
It's also this.
Yeah, it's also the phone. So what Donald Trump campaign did is they hacked the 2024 election, not in a way that people would think, where they said, wait a second, everyone has a supercomputer in the right-hand pocket. Why are we worried about what CNN is saying or MSNBC is saying? Why don't we win the information war? And then finally, the kicker, they said, why don't we go on the most ambitious, over-the-top, low-propensity voter communication strategy on Theo Von, Joe Rogan, Nelk Boys, Logan Paul, influencer strategies, right? And so what they said is there's this whole reservoir.
Brilliant.
And the final kicker, my mandate at Turning Point was very simple. Charlie, turn Trump supporters.
It's funny where it cuts off. But I suspect what he was going to say is turn Trump supporters into Trump voters. Yes, this is a good point here from Andrew. If you're wanting to collapse the euro, Bessent is the guy you want at Treasury. Read him as the guy who specializes at profiting when major currencies go down. Again, like if you're trying to like police the ideological inclinations of some of these people, like you're not thinking about this right. Trump's focus here is getting shit done, and he wants people who are good at doing a particular job. So if your goal is to protect United States financial sovereignty, especially from European interests that are encroaching upon it, then you want a guy who knows how to weaponize the mechanisms in the market to do that. So the fact that he's worked for Soros is actually almost a feature. Here are some of the most insane statistics about the waste and inefficiency of the U.S. government and why Elon and Vivek's new DOGE is such an incredible and crucial development for America. The Congressional Budget Office revealed at least 1,264 federal programs and bureaus have expired authorizations, but they still received $516 billion in funding for fiscal year 2024. So $500 billion went to federal programs and bureaus that have expired authorizations. The Government Accountability Office estimates the federal government wastes $247 billion in taxpayer money each year. So $250 billion is just wasted. The Department of the Treasury reported $24.5 billion in unreconciled transactions in the past, meaning it spent approximately $25 billion on unknown items. Department of Agriculture employees misused government-issued credit cards, spending millions on personal purchases like concert tickets, tattoos, lingerie, and car payments. $33.2 million was spent on transgender monkey research. The NIH spent part of a $2.7 million grant to study Russian cats walking on a treadmill. The DOD ruined $170 million of military equipment by leaving it outside. The U.S. Agency for International Development spent $6 million to promote tourism in Europe. The SBA the Small Business Administration gave over $200 million to music artists like Post Malone, Chris Brown, and Lil Wayne through the COVID Paycheck Protection Program. The U.S. military bought soap dispensers for aircraft at over 80 times the commercial price. The importance of the Department of Government Efficiency cannot be overstated. And Vivek said DOGE will soon begin crowdsourcing examples of government waste, fraud, and abuse. Americans voted for drastic government reform, and they deserve to be part of fixing it. They create a portal where people can go report all this stuff. They can crowdsource all of this. I mean, I've seen a lot of people who are like, "Oh, Trump can't unilaterally create this agency, and it's just going to be ceremonial." And I don't know how you can possibly look at Elon Musk's record and look at what risk and investment he put into creating this, into facilitating Trump's election, and think, oh, he's just going to wind up being the ceremonial head of a ceremonial agency that's just like a throwaway thing that's not going to do anything. At what point are people going to take Elon Musk's track record for what it is and recognize that he's going to get something for all that? There's no way it's just going to be some sort of throwaway ceremonial thing that like makes recommendations. He wouldn't have put his very freedom on the line for something like that. Wall Street Ape says something big is about to happen. In the first video, Vivek Ramaswamy, I will open criminal investigations into U.S. feds who knowingly evaded the ban on gain-of-function research to fund it abroad.
So
this is from when Vivek was running for president.
So now we know what we should have known all along, which was that this virus, COVID, began in a lab. It is a shame that it took us to get as long as it did to get to this answer clearly. You want to know why? They used the threat of racism to suppress any iota of debate. 2 years ago, people ought to remember this right now. If we don't learn from our history, we will never get better. big tech companies censored, mark my words, censored someone from being able to say online that this virus originated in a lab. This was in the name of preventing the spread of misinformation. What did we do? We actually created the spread of more misinformation. We have to learn from our history, or else we're going to keep making the same mistakes. Free speech is a precondition for truth, and we got this one wrong. But it's not just enough to look backwards. Going forward, as U.S. President, I'm committing to deliver accountability for the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. Anything else is not an option, or we can expect even worse from the CCP in the future. And you mark my words, I think we need to use every financial lever in our arsenal to do it. As your president, I commit to doing that, including, but not limited to, even looking at the national debt of the U.S. that they hold as an option. Sanctions on CCP officials, and even criminal investigations into U.S. government officials who knowingly evaded a federal ban on gain-of-function research to fund it abroad instead, in the name of preventing a global pandemic, may have very well contributed to creating one, and then used private companies through the back door to censor scrutiny and dissent. This is what makes our founding fathers roll over in their graves, but it's not just time to complain about it. It is finally time to deliver solutions, and you have my commitment that I will.
Then Elon tweeted this 2 days ago now. He said, "My pronouns are still prosecute Fauci." He says, both Elon and Vivek were just appointed by Donald Trump to run the Department of Government Efficiency. Accountability is coming for crimes against humanity with the COVID pandemic. One of the things about having a, what did he call it? Crowdsourcing examples of government waste, fraud, and abuse. Everyone's like looking at this from like an economic perspective, like, you know, cutting spending. Waste, fraud, and abuse is kind of that's a pretty wide range of things there. If you're crowdsourcing examples of waste, fraud, and abuse, you can crowdsource a lot of things. It becomes a reporting metric for whistleblower, or reporting mechanism for whistleblowers in all kinds of different domains. And the fact that it's not, if it winds up not being like an official government branch or an official government agency, that almost makes it better, because they may not be bound by a lot of the same constraints. Dak Jack says, "I truly believe Vivek thought Trump wouldn't be alive, so ran as a backup." Yes, I actually talked about this on the show yesterday. He mentioned in his conversation with Tucker Carlson that there was two things that he referred to that they'd talked about like last year sometime. And they were, one, that Biden would not be the nominee for the Democrats. And the second one was that Trump would not be alive. So he wasn't just running for the possibility that Trump would get lawfared out of the nomination. He was running for the possibility that Trump would not be alive, and they would need a backup option. So here's, Bryce said that JD Vance just dropped the hammer on Merrick Garland. This is what JD just tweeted. "The main issue with Matt Gaetz is that he used his office to prosecute his political opponents and authorize federal agents to harass parents who are peacefully protesting at school board meetings." Oh, wait, that's actually Merrick Garland, the current attorney general. Peaceful transfer of power, but there's some spice flying. All right, I mentioned that we had another one of our guys who caught the Elon retweet. John Carter. See, why am I not following these people that I've been following for a really long time? He says, "Holy shit, he's going for the endowments." We're going to play the video and then we'll read the rest of his tweet.
Tuition costs at colleges and universities have been exploding, and I mean absolutely exploding, while academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth. The time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that. Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies, policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America. Thank you.
What is that? Do you hear it? Do you hear that rumbling? That's the sound of the tanks approaching Harvard Yard. John Carter said, holy shit, he's going for the endowments. And notice,
Tuition cost.
Elon is the one who tweeted this video out. John Carter says he's going to not only tax, but confiscate the endowments of every university that the Department of Justice finds is engaged in illegal discrimination under the guise of equity. Who's the Attorney General again? Which is basically every university in the world, but is especially the DEIV League, which, if this happens, will die. This will crush one of the enemy's primary power centers. If he goes through with this, it's a Henry VIII moment. Dissolution of the monasteries. Vast quantities of capital liquidated and removed from the control of his political enemies. And vast intellectual capital liberated from the cloistered, cloying oversight of midwit administrators. And Elon retweeted this tweet. Our guy. Elon endorsing a Henry VIII moment against American universities. Ah! Oh my God. Colin Rosh says, even if Trump only accomplishes 30% of what he's put out, it will be the most transformative presidency of the last 100 years. Yes. Yes. How could you possibly be blackpilled? Continuing with the thread, he says, really didn't expect this to blow up or would have spoken more carefully. To be clear, Trump says the DOJ will go after the endowments of universities that continue discriminatory practices. So past discrimination doesn't count. They need to willfully continue discriminating. My bet, however, is that the universities are so packed with anti-white feminist ideologues that they'll try to find sneaky, deniable ways to continue discriminating. For example, ignoring SATs and GPAs in favor of admissions essays. The California university system, which is specifically prohibited from engaging in affirmative action, has been pulling this kind of thing for years. The Ivies did something similar after the Supreme Court decision striking down affirmative action. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a religious project for these people. But Trump has now indicated that if they defy him, they will simply be crushed. Since Elon has retweeted this, thank you for all the eyeballs, Elon, I will take the opportunity to mention that I also write things. Here you can find links to some recent essays, starting with one about the consequences for academia of feminization. Go follow John Carter at Martian Wordlord, and word is spelled W-Y-R-D, Martian Wordlord, or barsoom.substack.com. One of our guys and a powerful mutual. He's also got another one on the murder of a cute and innocent squirrel by a managerial state whose smothering tyranny is justified in the name of safety first. And finally, this one, a little bit of forgotten history that illustrates in the most visceral fashion possible that no, you do not hate communism enough. Disillusion of the monasteries, you say? My friend Helen Dale has written about this. Dissolve the universities. So this thread will be linked in the post. When I post this on Substack later on, if you listen to this on the You could go to Substack, kingpill.substack.com, or the podcatchers for the audio version of this episode. All the links will be in the description if you want to go peruse them yourselves and go read some of those things that John Carter linked here. And you should go follow him on Twitter at Martian Wordlord and Barsoom, Barsoom, Barsoom.substack.com. Last clip of the day from Alex Jones. Trump pledges educational game changer by creating the American Academy. A website covering the full spectrum of human knowledge will be free to all Americans.
In recent weeks, Americans have been horrified to see students and faculty at Harvard and other once respected universities expressing support for the savages and jihadists who attacked Israel. We spend more money on higher education than any other country, and yet they're turning our students into communists and terrorists and sympathizers of many, many different dimensions. We can't let this happen. It's time to offer something dramatically different. Under the plan I'm announcing today, we will take the billions and billions of dollars that we will collect by taxing, fining, and suing excessively large private university endowments, and we will then use that.
Okay, let's listen to that one more time.
Billions of dollars that we will collect by taxing, fining, and suing excessively large private university endowments. And we will then use that money to endow a new institution called the American Academy. Its mission will be to make a truly world-class education available to every American, free of charge, and do it without adding a single dime to the federal debt. This institution will gather an entire universe of the highest quality educational content covering the full spectrum of human knowledge and skills, and make that material available to every American citizen online for free. Whether you want lectures or ancient histories or an introduction to financial accounting or training in a skilled trade, the goal will be to deliver it and get it done properly. Using study groups, mentors, industry partnerships, and the latest breakthrough in computing, this will be a truly top-tier education option for the people. It will be strictly non-political, and there will be no wokeness or jihadism allowed. None of that's going to be allowed. Most importantly, the American Academy will compete directly with the existing and very costly four-year university system by granting students degree credentials that the U.S. government and all federal contractors will henceforth recognize. The Academy will award the full and complete equivalent of a bachelor's degree. In addition, to help the 40 million Americans who have some college education but no degree, the American Academy will grant credit for past coursework at legacy institutions and give you the chance to complete your education at the American Academy for free and much more quickly than is now possible or available. This will be a revolution in higher education and will provide life-changing opportunities for tens of millions of our citizens. Enjoy it, learn from it, and thank you.
The major central banks of the globe are owned by a handful of families. That's why the head of the private Federal Reserve last week, Jerome Powell, pledged to try to block Trump's agenda and said that even if Trump tries to fire him, he won't leave because he is above the law. They are.
So I'm letting this play here because I wanted to address this. I said this before, but I tweeted this the other day. Someone needs to get a message to Alex. Jerome Powell is not an enemy. Jerome Powell is not trying to block Trump's agenda. Jerome Powell is a friend. You got to get this low IQ libertarian and the Fed stuff. Like, update your operating system. Go listen to Tom Luongo. Jerome Powell is absolutely. Let me qualify this. He may not be a friend, but he's absolutely an ally. He is an American patriot.
A private agency.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Chad!
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
But Congress created the private agency of the Federal Reserve and can revoke their charter and abolish them. And that's why it's so exciting to see former Congressman Ron Paul coming in to advise the administration on monetary policies and to also dismantle the Federal Reserve. But that's where all this predatory garbage comes from. It's where the ESGs come from. It's where the global governance comes from, the corporate social credit scores, all of it. And President Trump is striking right at the heart of it, going after their predatory loans. Now, in closing here, Infowars is set to be sold at auction Wednesday, coming up in less than 48 hours. If good guys don't buy it, we will be shut down. But regardless, backups are being set up. New systems are in place with the Alex Jones Network. And your sponsorship, supporting us, the AlexJonesStore.com, with great supplements, great Patriot apparel, like this great shirt, is what is going to keep us on air. And we came out with 3 great limited edition fundraiser posters that are very, very popular. And I decided a few days ago to design a new one, another limited edition that just came out today and has now been printed in Arkansas and is ready to ship to you. Here it is on screen. Iconic. Takes the meme of what we predicted Harris would do trying to steal it, but that Trump would overpower the fraud, which is exactly what happened on the day of the election. On the eve of the election, on November 4th, on that Monday last week, I posted that meme and I said, this is my prediction for the election, and that's exactly what happened. So now it's that image, posterized, beautiful, striking, with 3 simple words at the bottom: back to back to back. That's right, he's the only president to ever run 3 times. And he's the only president to ever win in reality 3 times. He won in 16, he won in 2020, and he won in 2024. But this time the landslide was so big, they could not stop him. This is historic. We've won the battle. Now we've got to win the war to get him into office and drain the swamp. And to do that, he's got to have folks like Infowars reaching 60, 70 million people a day right now. The most reach we've ever had, thanks to you supporting and spreading the word and the world waking up. Everybody wants to hear what myself and the crew and the other reporters and our guests are saying. And to make sure we stay on the air, even if Infowars shuts down, go to the AlexJonesStore.com right now and get the Trump Patriot apparel, get the posters, there's limited edition, and that will ensure we stay on the air. So for myself and the entire crew, history's happening now. Thanks for your support. God bless and good luck. Now go to the AlexJonesStore.com and get these limited edition posters. Thank you so much.
In this house, we support American patriots. Alex Jones is an American patriot. Go support the man. If we get some more news on the purchase of Infowars between now and tomorrow's show, then I will share that with you guys. Last couple things I want to alert you to is a couple of great podcasts that just dropped that you should go listen to. Number 1, Jason Miranchuk went on Academic Agent. They talked about the top 5 hidden power players behind Donald Trump's rise to power. I'm going to be listening to this one tonight. I haven't had time yet, but tonight, this is my listening content. I'm going to go listen to Jason on Academic Agent. It's great to see him blowing up. And go watch it and go drop a comment in support of our boy. And then the other one dropped last night, right here. What the election results tell us, with Matthew Erickson on the Counterflow podcast. Buck Johnson. Go listen to that. Both of these, the AA one, I don't know if there's a podcast version of it. I know it's on YouTube. Buck's there's a podcast for it as well. So if you prefer to listen to podcasts versus YouTube, then you can find it there on all the podcatchers. But go listen to those and support those guys. Vulpus Persona says Jason was top form on AA. That's good to hear. What's up, Lex DeBlanca, the Lexcellent producer of Miranchuk Now? I appreciate you guys. Thank you for showing up. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We're past the 125 mark. We're at 132. Can we hit 150 during Hulk? There's 178 still watching. So some of you guys, hit the like button. Let's get it up to 150. I'm going to give you guys Hulk. Do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Go join the KingPilled Discord, kingpilled.com. I'm thinking we may do a, maybe in lieu of a schizo stream, maybe in addition, we might wind up doing a schizo stream tomorrow so that on Friday night, we could do a group watch of the Mike Tyson Logan Paul fight. That sounds fun. I think I want to do that. It's going to be streaming on Netflix, so maybe we'll hop in the voice chat and we can watch it all together. If you'd like to join us for that, then go to the KingPill Discord, kingpill.com, sign up, join us. You can go to buymeacoffee.com, links in the description, buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. You can throw me some cash that way if you like what I'm doing and you want me to keep doing it. And remember, go to my pinned tweet, at RealKingPilled. Go to my pinned tweet and make sure that you secure your Patriot drop. The White Pill Dead drop, a secret transmission that we received. You guys need to be aware of it. Get on board. Come join us. My pinned tweet, or if you want to miss some of the fun, you can go to ewbsx.com. That's ewbsx.com. Eternal White Boy Summer Radio. Join the Discord, brothers, says Taylor Brown. Thank you, guys. Hit the like button. Need 12 more. Hopefully we get it. Oinks in the chat, and I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough, and I said,